for earlier, but just give us a little bit of
no problem.
recap on the boat. Just
well, I bought the boat in '96, and the goal back then was to have kind of like a family cruiser. My kids are long gone, but back then they lived in the house. And the Santa Barbara Channel Islands were right there. So when I was in college, a young guy, I had a small sailboat, and then life got in the way. So we decided to get a boat and start cruising to the island. So that's what we did for about 10 years. The kids were both gone and out of college and on their own. And my wife and I double-handed Frolic down to Baja, 2006. Peter cruising and Sea Cortez for about a year. Then came back to Santa Barbara and we did island trips. And I've been racing regattas, wet Wednesdays, that kind of thing. And I did a race like Port Ensenada, and then I got into deliveries. Did 2 deliveries from California to Hawaii. One from California to Hawaii and one from Hawaii back to California. On a bigger boat, Santa Cruz 52 and a 78-foot ketch called Beowulf. And I got hooked. So I was hooked up to a double-handed Transpac in 2009, and that fell through. Boat withdrew. So I started looking around, and the single-handed Transpac caught my eye. Faisal is an old friend in Santa Barbara, and he did the 78. And so the bug grew, and I ended up coming up to Oakland for a meeting, one of their Oakland Yacht Club seminars, late 2011. And Rob Tryon was a race director, and he said, "Anyone thinking about doing the 2012?" And I stood up and said, "I am," much to my wife's surprise. So, scrambled the next month. I got my 400-mile qualifier and then sailed the boat up along San Francisco, Santa Barbara, which actually was the hardest part of that trip. Getting beat up off Arguello and coming up to Big Sur Coast was more brutal than anything in the 2012 race. In the 2012 race, I felt like I did okay, but I just really felt like I could do better. I felt like I didn't do things as well as I should have in certain ways. I didn't understand falls. I didn't really have handing the spinnaker down. I learned a lot from Fonzie, who's a great guy. And some of the other single-handers like Michael Jefferson, Brian Boschma. So I started, hanging out with them and sailing with them as much as I could. And, went to a few Stan Honey things and read his stuff online and Skip Allen had some stuff online. I just got really pumped up about doing it again, so signed up for the 2014. And the big difference was in 2012 I spent a lot of energy on celestial navigation. In fact, I got the Navigator trophy because I used the sextant to plot my position the entire way across, and I had all my calculations and plotting sheets. So they gave me the Navigator trophy, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But for 2014, I said, okay, that's fun, but come on, you got like 6 GPSs on the boat. So I put that energy into the weather. And I really, the more I think about it, looking at my track and comparing it to the other boats, I think my prime advantage was keeping this boat sailing on its rating by really hurting the edge of between going too far south and getting too far north because of the collapsed high. It was a really kind of a bizarre high. It disintegrated and went south and turned into a sausage instead of a circle.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were watching the synoptic, but I downloaded the weather facts and grids every day, and I spend several hours a day studying them and trying to figure out, doing the what ifs. What if I go this much south? Just knowing what my polars are and what I could do. And so I choose, what I eyeball to be the optimum. I don't have Expedition or anything like that, but I think I was doing on back envelope what Expedition does. I've never used it, but I understand, that's what it does. And I think that was actually my prime advantage. I think that if I watched, I think watching the weather and matching it to what I could do with this boat is what kept me going strong. You know, I never got the calm like I did in 2012. I got stuck in a high for a day and a half. What a miserable experience that was. I kept the boat moving, and yeah, so here I am in Honolulu, and the other thing is nothing broke. In 2012, my gooseneck was coming apart. I burned out 2 autopilot motors. I was pretty crippled by the time I got to Honolulu. In fact, I ended up just sailing the boat to Oahu and spent months there putting in a below-deck pilot, and I doubled the size of the gooseneck, did a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Rearranged the running rigging, added a lot of clutches and winches on the, you know, to match it better to what actually worked when you're alone dealing with stuff at night, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of kites, didn't you blow up everything you had, or was that?
I blew up. I had 3 3/4 ounce shoots, a 1.5 ounce and a 1/2 ounce, and I put up my first 3/4 too early. There's kind of a joke amongst the single-handers that first kite up is the first one to crash, and I certainly proved that rule. I put up one, I think, on the first. You know, we left on the 28th, and it was a beam reach, or, you know, just shy of a beam reach. And I shouldn't have done it, but I had a reaching strut. I put it up, and I got knocked down 3 times, so I took it down. I put it up the next day, and I sailed it, and then I got in a squall, and it blew up, so it didn't last 2 days. So then I put up, my good chute again, the one that had knocked me down, and due to operator error, I ripped the corner off, you know, on my anchor roller.
Yeah.
So then I put up my last 3/4 ounce, and it lasted 3 full days, almost to the hour, and then it exploded in a squall. Meanwhile, I patched a good 3/4, you know, a lot of Frankenstein stuff. I used a whole roll of sail tape and lots of hand sewing. I sewed over the whole seam, both sides, and then stitched with a handball you call it the heavy stuff, tape and the seam. So the ribs taped and sewn, and then the seams were double sewn with a handball. And I did my best with what I had, and it held. It held for the last 3 days of the race.
Well, so
I flew it all the way to 10 miles out. I doused it because I saw a squall coming, which turned out to be nothing, but I pulled out the Genoa, and I thought that would get me in, and it did. Got me in. Although the wind backed it at one point about 3 miles out. I thought for a while, because I came in about midnight, or early hours Sunday.
Yeah.
Between midnight and 1, and the wind actually went offshore, so I was close, reaching so small to the line. I was a little nervous that I wouldn't be able to make it, because the wind wasn't that strong, so that meant the faster I went, the harder it pushed me away. And but I made it. The wind backed off, and I ended up kind of reaching across the line, and that was it.
Yeah, so how many hours a day would you say you were averaging with the kite up?
Oh, God, I left it up 3 days solid, 2 days solid, those 2 until they blew up. And then the last one, the patched one, I was very skittish, so I left it up most 18 hours, the last 18 hours before I took it down. Before that, I would put it up in the morning after I thought the squalls were gone, you know, late morning, and I'd take it down just after, about an hour or 2 after sunset.
Yeah.
As soon as I couldn't really see squalls, so I was very conservative with it, because it was my last kite. The 1.5 ounce wouldn't have worked. My 1/2 ounce would have been destroyed instantly.
Yeah, so for those of us that don't know, how do you maintain the kite being up single-handed when you're not constantly tending to it?
Well, basically, when the kite's up, I sleep in the cockpit, and I'm very sensitive to the feel of the boat and the noise, and that's one thing you learn just by being on the boat a lot, and I wake up instantly if something changes. I feel it, and I trim it. Now, aside from that, I tend to over-trim. I always sheet it in a little, and if I'm really worried about squalls, or like at night, when I left it up 24/7, I would sheet it on the after guy, you know, midship, so it would kind of be more robust. What do you call it? Depowered. Mm-hmm. You know, when you sheet it in midship, it's depowered. And I had 2 poles, so that made diving very fast and easy. I had 2 poles set up, so I could dive actually faster on the spinnaker than I could with my pulled-out Genoa. And that helped a lot. So I was diving quite a lot some nights. But let's see, I don't know if I answered your question. It's basically being really sensitive, being conservative in the trim, not having the standard lip curl if you think you're going to go to sleep. So I would take it just a little tighter than the lip curl, but not optimum.
Yeah.
Maybe bring the pole a little forward, and always have a backup plan. Know if something tights up, what was I going to do? What was I going to trip? What was my procedure? I'd think through exactly the steps I would take if something went wrong, so I didn't have to think. I would just play it through my mind over and over, so I could, rescue myself before I crashed.
Yeah. So
That worked.
yeah. So would you say, in your estimation, that the Islander 36, being a displacement type of a hole, behaves itself better and is easier to control single-handed with a kite up versus the ultralights, where you pretty much go wing on wing at night when you want to sleep, and then pop the chute up in the daytime?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with ULDBs. I've sailed a little bit on them, but certainly nothing like this, no overnighters. And but from talking to other sailors, you talk to Ronnie Simpson or the two Express 27s that did this race, at least got in a few hours ago. Yeah, they can't just give up the chute. You're right. They're much more skittish. They're lighter boats. Express 27 and a more 24, I think they weigh half what my keel weighs.
Right.
So there's not a whole lot of margin there. Their sail area displacement is huge compared to mine. I've got a much more forgiving boat.
Right.
That said, I've been on my ear quite a few times. It's easy this boat has a lot of power. It's got plenty of sail area displacement, but nothing like the ULDB.
Yeah. So, any harrowing moments in the trip, or was everything pretty much as you expected, or within realms of expectancy?
Well, the first 2 days were amongst the roughest I've spent at sea, and I was, in the words of Ken Roper, the general, when we talked about it after that, on our single sideband, twice daily check. We were asked, how'd you do? And he said, well, I set the sails and cowered in my bunk. That's basically what I did. It was violent. Waves that bashed on the side of the boat, this hammer and starboard, washing right over the boat. I was really worried about my Dodger and solar panel, but everything held. Nothing came apart. The boat was stronger than the man in this case. That was worrisome. And then when I heard Mouton Ward turn back, Michael Jefferson and his fifth single-handed transpac, 48-foot aluminum cat, or aluminum loop, cutter.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what am I doing here, getting hammered like this? But got through that, and then I guess I was pretty discouraged. I wouldn't call it harrowing, but discouraged when I screwed up with a chute and knocked myself down and, blew up. That was, not a good feeling. I thought, God, I'm so close to taking myself out of this race, because, of course, without a finish, it's not much of a race.
Yeah. Well, good. So,
I had inspiring moments. That's the first couple of days were rough.
yeah. So,
Out of the boat, he took a beating and didn't show any wear I can find. Except my main fuel tank broke free. The fiberglass strap broke. I've got to repair that before I go back. That was the only damage I took.
And how are things moving along in the island? How many people you got on shore now?
Oh gosh, I don't know if let's see. Elise came in, Galaxy came in last night, or the wee hours, yeah. So what do we have out of 14? Must have 8 or 9. Let's see, well, let me see, I can count backwards. I know Harrier's due in a couple hours, Ken Roper's boat. Elizabeth Ann is close behind them. And then there's, Fast Lane back there. Jack is coming up the rear.
And
so there's 4 boats, so there could be 10 here.
And
I don't have an exact number.
Maris.
Right.
Yeah.
Maris, good call. Yeah, Maris, Dina 24.
Is Grayson already?
Say what? Oh, Grace isn't in. Okay, so they're 8 in and 6 to go.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, good. Beaver's in.
And for those that don't know, what happens at tree time?
Oh, tree time is great. basically the sailors and their friends and family, significant others, whoever's here. It's kind of like a beach party. Everyone brings a little chip and dip and beer, wine, or whatever, and you just tell sea stories. The tradition is, you know, each skipper gets up and tells a story, especially the ones that just came in that day. You know, gives a little blurb about the highs and lows kind of thing. And it's just a social hour. And usually people break off and have dinner together. And it's very nice, very pleasant, very, a lot of camaraderie.
Okay. And are most of these sailors staying on their boats still?
I think most have condos.
Okay.
Yeah, I think most are got places on shore. Not too many are staying on the boat. I'm staying on my boat. I did the condo in 2012 and didn't really like it. I was more comfortable on the boat.
Yeah. Well, very good. I'm going to let you get back to the island life. Say hi to everybody for us, and we'll get this video up and share it. And if you can bug Brian or anybody to get me some more names and numbers, I'll get some more interviews down here.
All right. I will do, Eric. I'll remind Brian when I see him in a few hours. And, yeah, if you want to talk anymore, feel free to call anytime.
That sounds great. Again, congratulations on your success in the trip, and enjoy the Garden Isle while you're there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Talk soon. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Bye-bye, Eric.